What do you got going on your end?
Oh, everything's going good. Going good. Just been taking the dogs out the puppies out on walks in the neighborhood and everything like that. Just trying to get them more used to being out and about. You know what I mean?
Yeah. How many dogs do you have on your yard now, not including the puppies?
I have 3 adults on the yard, and then, like I told you, I have a few co-owned out in South Carolina and Georgia and North Carolina. But yeah, on the yard right now, actually 3 adults.
Let's go back to the beginning. Where was your start in dogs?
Really, my start in dogs was my father had always been into terriers. He got into, when I was a child, he was really into a rare Irish breed called the Glen-of-a-Mall Terrier. Now, I mean, I would kind of, they're not exactly like high drivey like a Patterdale or Yak Terrier, but they were pretty prey-driven dogs. They were a good bit bigger, about 35 to 40 pounds. Mm-hmm. But I was always exposed to going to dog shows. Previous to that, my father had an American Staffordshire Terrier and a Bull Terrier. And I stumbled across a couple of pit bulls and a couple of Amstaffs. Our family veterinarian had bred Amstaffs, and it was from down from a guy named Theo Rayburn, and he bred dogs called Sertoma dogs, and Sertoma dogs were AKC Amstaffs, but they were, you and I had talked previously about the Tacoma bred line, which were performance bred American Staffordshire Terriers, and I believe it was expert line of American Staffordshire Terriers, and I believe that was the cross to make the Sertoma line or strain. Mm-hmm. And so that's where I first saw, some Amstaffs, and man, that was it from there. So, I bring home, and I called them, I used to call them $75 I want a pit bulls. I think I brought home 3 between the ages of 15 and 18. And then my father was like, they'd always want me to, I'd always have to take them back. And he goes, well, if you're going to get a damn dog, go get one that you know's quality. So my mother didn't want me to she didn't want a large dog in her house, basically. Mm. So it was we decided either Old English Bulldog or the Staffordshire Bull Terrier. And I wanted to go with something, a more established breed than the Old English Bulldog, because, Old English Bulldogs at that point were only, quote unquote, 20, 25 years old. Staffy Bulls have been around since the mid 1800s, unofficially. Right. So I went with a Staffy Bull, and that was my first, quote unquote, papered, pit bull type dog, if you will. Great little dog, very high prey drive. I did some hog catching competitions with him a long time ago, and he was just an amazing little dog. He was about 38 pounds, and that's really where I got started. And once I started going to shows, I'd go to ADBA shows, I'd go to NKC shows, which were, American Bulldog shows, AKC shows. I never really went to UKC shows because where I'm at, I think they only have one, and and I've just never been to it. And then from there, ABKC shows or whatever, little, bully barbecue or whatever, that would kind of be in the area. And that's kind of where I started at.
I gotcha.
I tried to stay AKC for the majority of the beginning. I was going to stay either AKC or I was going to have AKC and ABA performance bred dogs. What happened was I had a couple of female Amstaffs of different bloods, and the way the UKC works, I always wanted to dual register my dogs, AKC, UKC. But the way the UKC works, they closed open registration for ADBA dogs being dual registered and AKC dogs at the time. This is probably 12, 15 years ago. So I really had to make a choice. Am I going to be AKC? Because now at this point, I can't register my AKC dogs with the UKC. You see what I'm saying? So it was
I thought that that UKC took AKC dogs. They just called them pit bulls.
They do.
Oh,
but there was a time when they stopped. Because there was a time probably 10 or 12 years ago, maybe a little longer, where they would not register, and they didn't give anybody a heads up. They were just like, we're not doing single application for single dogs anymore.
Oh, okay.
And this was around the same time that they were denying some quote unquote American bullies that had pit bull papers, actual paperwork. And so I had to make a choice, or I made a choice of, do I stay with the AKC and just do AKC Amstaffs, or do I go into UKC American Pit Bull Terriers? And by this point, I had gotten rid of my AKC dogs, except my stud. And then I really kind of just gravitated towards that. The gene pool was just so much more vast. There was a lot of diversity as far as bloodlines, and crossing dogs and crossing bloodlines has always been interesting to me. I have a lot of respect for, bloodlines and strains of dogs, but to kind of create something new has always been interesting to me. I think you and I have always, kind of had a shared interest. It's always been interesting to me. If someone takes an actual ADBA performance bred game dog and breeds it with an AKC Amstaff, I'm highly interested in that litter, because that's just a neat concept to me. That's something that's been bred for strictly performance for the past, 100 years, 150 years. And then you take something that's been bred from the same lineage of dogs, but for the past 75 years or whatever, it's been bred for pretty much looks.
Yeah.
And then you cross them back together. I mean, that's just, you can't do that with any other dog breed. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's just interesting.
It would make more of I always thought it would make like a bulkier, more square looking performance dog. Because, I mean, your ADBA pit bulls are very Bruce Lee-like, slim, very chiseled, smaller sometimes. Yeah, I fully agree. That's been on my bucket list of at least something to come across. I just want to see somebody that's done that, and I want to see what they come up with.
Well, there's a couple of ADBA dogs, and when I say that, supposed AKA, game dogs. Like, there's a dog named Kingfish, and I forget what was the prefix or the last name before that, but Kingfish was, he was a quarter Amstaff or something like that. So there's been a couple of game dogs that have had an AKC dog in them, but it's kind of one of those deals. You go back far enough where you're really talking about only 3 or 4 generations of Amstaff before you go back to the game dog before. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's more impressive to me when you see a small group of fanciers and breeders do something as opposed to a large number of group and breeders, because that seems like it's easy. You know what I mean?
Right.
But
so your line is basically, or your strain, or whatever you want to call it, heavily influenced by Amstaff blood?
Yes, yeah. Well, I started my first, pit bull after my Staffordshire Bull Terrier. I bought an AKC American Staffordshire Terrier. At a year old, I got him dual registered as a UKC Pit Bull Terrier. But and he is from Edelholz Kennels. He is half Edelholz, and then he's half Gaff. And what I basically did was outcrossing to different bloodlines, different strains of Razor's Edge. I crossed him to a Peterson dog. But what I did was I took some dogs from that, and my friend had a dog named NVK's Takao, which is the red dog that I've showed you. And basically we matched and crossed those two dogs together. Also added a little bit of Sierra blood. And so, you know, I have Amstaff Foundation as well. I have, you know, that old Razor's Edge Foundation with a little bit of gray line in the back coming through Monster G. And basically we line breed on that. And then, you know, every 4 or 5 generations, I'll do a little bit of outcross. I don't do that much breeding. You know, I'll probably do a breeding a year because every breeding I do is strategic, and I want to be able to keep something off of it. You know what I mean? It's about progression for me. It's not about anything else, you know. And if I do a breeding, it's because I'm trying to better the next generation from the current generation. You know what I mean? Like, and why even breed if you're not going to keep anything? That doesn't make sense to me at all. You know?
Right. So you're aiming basically for the clean Amstaff look, but like a touch of bullier, like bulk.
Yeah. What the aim I have is pretty much like what you said prior. Is I want a functional dog, and the best way I can say it, and I've said it for years, is I want a functional dog that resembles phenotypically, 75%, 80% Amstaff, 20 to 25% Bulldog or Mastiff. I want something that is going to be functional, thick, but not too thick, with the right amount of leg. I want a dog that can go with you on a trail and not gas out. I mean, you live in South Carolina like I do, and the fact of the matter is we only get winter about 2 months out of the year down here.
Right.
You know, and it's 90, 95 degree humidity on a consistent basis once you hit about May. You know, so I don't want a paperweight or an ornament for my arm. I want a companion that is durable and functional. And, you know, too much Bulldog, that I don't want a Bulldog. I want something a little bit bulkier than the Amstaff. You know. And most of my dogs right now will range, you know, 16 to 17 inches tall, the males, and probably 60 to 65 pounds. Every once in a while, I'll throw an 80-pounder. And then the female's just a little bit shy of that, you know. So there's still kind of Amstaff, UKC height area and weight area for the Amstaff.
Have you ever run into any health problems with your dogs?
I have not ran into any health problems. What I have run into, and, you know, I think once you start line breeding and inbreeding, I have run into, you know, with American bullies, and you know, whatever people want to call mine, they are American bullies. But at kink tail every once in a while. Yeah, as far as actual health, no. I mean, I have a dog out here right now that she turns 12, you know, here in July. You know, and the only thing that I have noticed is, you know, with line breeding and inbreeding every once in a while, like I said, the kink tail. But I mean, I really try to keep the most functional dogs out of the litter, meaning good mechanics, good wind. I don't necessarily, looks has something to do with it, but I will take functionality and correctness over a pup with a major flaw. You see what I'm saying? Any day of the week. You know what I mean? Because once again, it's about progression, and not one dog's. Yeah, to me, I've always been like, one dog doesn't make a program. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, it takes a village, and to me, it's more about a look, and I just try to cultivate and tweak that look, but also be very selective on what I outcross to, because I don't want to bring in, faults from this line that I haven't really dealt with prior, if that makes sense.
Mm. Have any of your dogs, and I only ask because we live in the same state, have any of your dogs suffered from allergies?
Allergies. I've not had dogs suffer from allergies. What gets them in, if you're talking about the summer, and I don't know if your pit has crop ears, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Well, what I'll get is there'll be, I live in between cow pastures. I'll get a lot of flies in this general area, and I'll get Bronco, and Bronco will help them out. As far as, I had one dog that had allergies, and it was funny enough, he stayed in the house, and he always had allergies. Not like hair loss, but more like, how can you say, like
puffy eyes and stuff.
A bump, like a rough coat, like almost looked like he had bug bite or something. Bug bites. And my wife and I, we keep her dog in the house, and my wife and I told her, I said, I'm gonna put him outside for a little while, see how he does out there. And about 2 weeks later, same food, everything, he cleared up. Something in the home agitates him, makes his skin flare up. He's outside, hasn't had a flare up since.
Wow, that's strange.
It really is strange, because I wish I would have known that before I took him to the vet about 5 times, trying to figure out, and give me pills and change food.
Yeah, my female is she suffers from allergies big time. I mean, we literally just spent probably $300 on a vet visit with medications and everything. When I give her a bath, I got to use the shampoo that is prescription shampoo. But
yeah, well, that shampoo will help out a lot. And I've always heard, when it comes to stuff like that, because a lot of people want to pretend like they don't have stuff come up. If you have more than 2 or 3 dogs, I don't care if you're whatever you are. If you've got 2 or 3 dogs and you've had them for over 10 years, or at least you've had issues with dogs get sick just like people, and a lot of people don't want to admit that, or have issues just like people. And but with the hair stuff, I've always found that new stock from Tractor Supply, now it smells horrible to a lot of people, but new stock, and then there's a mane, like a horse mane shampoo. Tractor Supply has a lot of hidden gems, but they're kind of in the horse department. And if I had an issue like that, I've used both before, and it's worked well. And I think a lot of times, like with your girl you're talking about, like I think, one, it can start because something's annoying her, and 2, it turned into stress. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that too.
Yeah, it could be a combination of both.
Yep.
But yeah,
that was a good point. A lot of people act like their yard is just perfect and there's nothing at all wrong with their dogs, and I call BS, because like you said, dogs get sick just like your kids get sick. It just happens.
And that's the truth. And I'm not saying it in a bad way or a good way, but like my 12-year-old dog, Javelina, and Javelina's actually she's she's that dog to cow bred to a pure Sierra bitch. So she's half AKC, right? I mean, her mom is a full amp staff. Well, anyways, she was looking bad. Like, her personality wasn't hitting right, and she's a very outgoing girl. And she went to her doghouse, and I was like, I got her and lifted her up. She had been bit by something. But okay. I couldn't tell if she had been bit by something or if it was she had gotten somehow caught on something. You know what I mean? Like a piece of something caught her on the yard, on her belly. And I took her to the vet, and I said, well, what do y'all think it is? I said, my guess is she either got bit or caught on something, and they told me, they said, well, we're going to give her medicine, but we think she'd been bit on something. And I mean, I'm bit by something. And it ended up, they gave her medicine, and about 2 days later, I mean, she bounced back because, you know, you always think like a 12-year-old dog, you know, once it starts going south, you know what I mean?
Right, yeah, especially at that age.
Yeah, but, yeah, insects are always, you know, that's usually the thing that I always tell people to do is, like, if you do have a kennel set up, man, always be sure to spray under dog houses. And I mean, you know, little husbandries like that will help out dramatically. You know, that one threw me off guard because it was the dead of, you know, December. And, but anyways, we got her back good now.
Yeah, that's one thing I worry about being here in the South is, you know, we got all kinds of poisonous spiders, snakes, especially where I'm at. I'm more in the swampy area, you know.
Yeah.
Myrtle Beach is lowland.
Yeah.
And especially, like, I'm right outside of Myrtle Beach. Kind of inland. And, yeah, it's lowland. It's swamp.
Well, y'all have alligators there like we have them here, correct? Or are y'all too far north for them?
No, there's, I hear there's gators here. I know for a fact they're out in the country, like Conway and places like that. And there's certain, like, we've been to, like, all the, you know, state parks and everything around here. And there is signs for them. We live near the Intercoastal Waterway. And I've never seen personally, but I hear there's gators in there for sure.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know. I wanted to take Yoshi swimming, just to try to. Actually, I wanted to take him down where I got baptized, and because hell, I mean, I went in there, no problem.
Yeah,
but, I mean, you could pretty much the water is pretty clear, you know.
Yeah.
So it's like maybe I'll take him right to that spot, but. Other than that, where the boat landings are and stuff, I don't want to take him down there because it's like I think that's where the gators are, and he'd make a nice little treat for a gator.
That's right. I mean, I guess what I always noticed with going back to the bullies is right when they were kind of getting around here, probably 01, 02, there were a few of them that actually had caught heat stroke and died, and my thing is, I've always said if you need to treat these dogs more like a bulldog than you do a game dog, because that way, you know, or treat them more like a Johnson American Bulldog or an Old English Bulldog, whatever. Just don't leave them out and have them set up on a game dog setup, because you're going to lose most of the time. And there were 3 or 4 dogs, and you'll still, I mean, especially in the South, you'll hear about dogs, you know, stroking out over the summer because they, you know, for whatever reason, they got overheated. And that's one thing I've always, kind of seen with the bullier style dogs is you have to be very conscientious about and truthful with yourself that these aren't your old school pit bulls that you could just, tether up to something and just say, have a nice day. I'll see you when I get home. You need to treat them more like a bulldog style dog, which they are.
That's why I always thought it was a good idea. Like when and if I do my cross, to take it back to the old game blood, because they were just more durable.
Yeah,
like they live for the most part in the South, outdoors in the summer. Like they were able to handle it.
Yeah,
I had one dog, Bella, who I bred to my Gotti dog, and she was, I don't know if she was 100% game dog. She was UKC registered, but she definitely had more of a game frame. But I mean, it'll be boiling hot outside, and she wants to be outside. She didn't even want to come in the house. Every time the door would open, pew, she's out in the yard and wants to stay out there. Another thing I noticed was it'd be pouring rain outside, and she would run right outside. She didn't care, whereas my more bully dogs are, no, I don't want to go out there.
Yeah.
I think they're more, house raised.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a good thing and a bad thing, but it's still weird. Like if you're looking at UKC, I think bullies are considered companion breeds, and it's just so weird to me. I understand why they're not in the working class, and I understand why they're not in the terrier class. But to me, just saying I think of a companion breed, and I'm like Shih Tzu. You know what I mean?
Right.
Or a Dalmatian. You know what I mean?
Or a French bulldog.
Yeah, and no disrespect to any of those breeds. They're
right,
all great,
exactly.
But you think that it would be in a group with like the Molosters or the Bulldogs. But it's going to be interesting, in my opinion, watching the next 10 years, because in the American Bully, because I'm really wondering if there's going to be. And I'm saying that optimistically, bloodlines develop with further consistency. You know what I mean? Like, you already are kind of starting to see, and you've touched on this before, XL people are kind of just doing their own thing. And I wonder if you're going to start seeing, people, start really trying to, and not saying they're not already, but bloodlines get more distinct. And you know what I mean? Like in the AKC or UKC with the Amstaffs and Pit Bulls or whatever breed.
Yeah.
Where I still think the American Bully is kind of young, and not saying that in a bad way. Every breed was young at some point, but I don't know that you've really seen time to. Yes, there's strains out there, and there's some damn good ones, but just or bloods, but just to see it, 10, 15 years from now, I'm going to be interested to see the progression. And bloodlines further develop in the breed.
I think, honestly, people have wasted a huge chunk of time with the American Bully. Like, I think it could have been in its refinement stages already. I think people see the American Bully as a green light to just mix what you want to mix together and still call it an American Bully. Like, I was very strict on when and if I cross something, I'm not going to label it anything that anybody else labeled it. I'll simply call it a Lawton dog and leave it at that, because it's only going to be for my yard, and I might sell one once in a blue moon.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And, I was talking to an AKC friend of mine that has staffs last night, and the Merle thing came up, and I said, this is my closing statement on Merles. Yes, the pattern's neat. To me, no, like you said, it doesn't belong in the breed. And for anybody who says, Merles are in pit bulls, Well, if they were in pit bulls, they would be in Amstaffs, and they would be in Staffordshire Bull Terriers. And they would be in bull terriers because bull terriers were outcrossed with Staffy bulls in the 1930s to get color.
Right.
And they weren't. The only thing that has Merle are a few old lines of pit bulls that were crossed with Catahoula that they revoked papers. To each their own, but like you said, if you keep on adding stuff, you're not going to get consistency. And, you know, I'm not this huge Merle expert because, in my opinion, there's no need for me to be because I don't have it. But I'll say this: I would hate if I was to breed Merles, which I'm not. I would hate to have the most exceptional daughter of a Merle that just happens to be Merle, and I can't breed it to the next best dog because it's Merle. You know what I mean?
Like, exactly. The limitations that you set up for yourself.
You're limiting yourself. You're breeding yourself into a corner, and I think that you were right in the fact that, you know, money plays a big aspect of, you know, I'm not an expert on French Bulldogs, not a reason for me to be, but I do know that I didn't really see black and tans and Merles 15 years ago, and now you see a bunch of them, and now you're seeing long-haired ones. And if you can't tell me that that's not because of money, you're lying, you know. And it's a catch-22 because I think that there's some rules. Like, I think it's silly that the AKC, you have to have a dog that's no more than 80% white. You can't have, or something like that. You can't show red noses. You can't show black and tans. The same colors that come in UKC and ADBA pit bulls come in AKC Amstaffs.
Yeah.
But you just can't show them just because they don't like the color. Like that's silly to me.
Right.
You know what I mean? But when you're talking about a health concern, and they're also native to the breed. Like, if Merle was native to this breed or these breeds, that'd be one thing. Now you're just talking about a personal opinion, but, you know, you're kind of talking about historical fact that you're saying, I know it's mixed, but I'm still good with it. You know what I mean?
If you look at their pedigrees and you look at, say, the grandparents of the said breeding pair, none of those dogs had any Merles in their genetics. Yeah. None. Zero.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you're like, no, these are 100%. No, there's no paper hanging going on here. And it's like, well, I mean, the proof is in the pudding.
and I'm not trying to talk bad about these DNA tests, and I'm actually going to do a couple on my dogs because there is a diverse difference of bloodlines back there generationally.
Yeah.
But I am interested because if you get a form and it says fill out, you know, what breed Fluffy is mixed with, and if you put Fluffy's Poodle and Boston Terrier, well, then you basically just paid them $100 to write back that your dog's Poodle and Boston Terrier. You know, I mean, I just don't understand how you can. I don't understand the complexity of how, you know, I shouldn't even say it, but how a DNA dog database can tell the difference between an AKC Amstaff, a UKC Pit Bull, and a Staffordshire Bull Terrier. I you know,
right.
they maybe can. That there's a lot of gray in there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think the science is there, but I think about what Lee Robinson from American Sentinel said. He was like, the problem with DNA is, I'm paraphrasing, but he said you could, male A and male B, that are on your yard, you could swab male B, but when you put on the paper, you can label it male A.
That's right.
And still, like, it all depends on the honesty of the person filling out the paperwork before they send it in. I could swab Yoshi and put Jax's name on it, and they would say, oh, well, this Rottweiler ain't a Rottweiler. It's 100% Boer Bull. Just because I decided to be dishonest. I think that's the reason why, and I don't want to sound like, I don't want to sound negative, but that's the reason why being a breeder, like, just isn't for me. You know, it was like I might produce some litters here and there if the stars align and if it's God's will, just lines up perfectly, do it. You know, if I find the perfect Amstaff and Yoshi checks out as far as health testing, hips and joints when he's older, and he has the right drives I like, then yeah, I'm gonna breed it because I want it for me. But
Yeah.
outside of that, man, the dog game as a whole, the breeding industry, there's just way too much going on, and I just don't trust it anymore. You know, like, I think there's honest people out there, and I know a few of them that are, you know, 100% in what they do. But I don't. But even the people that I know 100% are, you know, that are 100% in what they do, the people they got their dogs from might not have been. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So even if this guy's honest that I'm buying dogs from, he's only honest as far as he knows. You know?
Yeah.
So it goes on and on and on. And I'm just like, well, I only got into dogs in the first place because, you know, I wanted, you know, some extra security, and then that led to me being a completely obsessed with dogs. But I don't want to be a part of the business anymore. And that was a really harsh turn for me. Like, that was rough for me to actually sit back and make that decision, because it was a dream of mine, and then also my wife, to you know, to produce great dogs and you know, make a business out of it. But I'd like to see people have to get licensed. Like, if you had to be licensed to own not dangerous but potentially dangerous animals, and then you had to be licensed further to be permitted to breed them, I think that would change a lot of things in the dog game. I think it would clean it up tremendously. But you know, there's a thin line between what's right and what, you know, what's tampering with freedom as well. And I think a lot of people would, you know, hell no, I should be able to breed my dog if I want. And it's like, yeah, but in the big picture, you're screwing things up, you know?
Yeah. You know, it's a weird thing because, you know, when you're talking about it from the business aspect, it is an odd thing because I don't, for a long time, like, if you're doing it for, I'm trying to get as much money as I can, number one, I don't think you'll ever have a consistent program. If it was a style of dog you really liked, and then you started breeding for just money, or it turned that way, before long you could have a whole yard of dogs you don't like, and the only thing you like about them is that check you're getting.
Right.
I've never wanted to do that. Like, I mean, you know, because, you know, some of that shit, you know, it's almost a pyramid scheme. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And number one is I like what I have now. But number two is I didn't get. I mean, yeah, if someone wants to come buy a dog for X amount of dollars, I mean, we'll have a discussion. But that's not why I do it. Like, this is a hobby for me, you know, and I don't. Breeds will consistently change as long as money's involved at a very hefty cost, in my opinion.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
you know
definitely.
What I mean?
For sure. My whole thing was I don't want to lie and say it wasn't about money for me, because I thought, well, it'd be great to make that kind of money too that these dog men are making. But it was also, I won't budge on what I want in these dogs. You know, so that was what it was like for me. But now I noticed that it's the whole business is saturated.
Well, yeah, I think that if Eric Lawton is breeding the type of dogs that I like 110%, and he's doing it on a consistent basis, then there's no reason for Kyan Buchanan to breed dogs, because Eric Lawton's doing it. You see what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Like there's no reason for me to do exactly, or try to do exactly what you're doing, or vice versa. Like, there's no reason. And I feel like, you know, I feel like, and this is just my opinion, trying to figure out what the American, you know, speaking of the American bully, trying to figure out exactly what is the end result going to be? And because what I have might not be, what I have would probably be considered pocket and classic right now.
Right.
But what's the end result? Is it a dog that phenotypically looks more bulldog, or is it a dog that phenotypically looks like a thicker, bulkier Amstaff?
Right.
And my dogs are always going to resemble the latter, the Amstaffs. But what is it going to look like? And I think that they're kind of not figuring it out, but they're kind of going the way they're going right now. There's actually a lot of XLs. The stature, I feel like XLs are becoming more and more well built, in my opinion, because I've been going to shows for since 2000. Early before that with AKC and stuff, but when I started going to bully shows, I didn't personally like. A lot of XLs were just built different, obviously, because of the ingredients to the recipe. I don't know many 130-pound bulldogs, but I know plenty of 130-pound mastiffs. You know what I mean?
Right.
And but I think that the XLs I've seen lately really are well put together, well balanced. Really look kind of like a giant Amstaff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they're that. Like I said before, the XLs are looking great. I just don't like the Merle stuff going on in it. Me personally, but honestly, I feel like, and I know I've said this 100 times, but Cairo, Juan Gotti, Remy Martin, that style of dog. Remy Martin, and I've said this before too, was a touch too short for me. I loved everything about him, but I would have added a few inches of height. But I think that's where the American Bully should have stopped. That's just me. I know people disagree because we have all these, excellent dogs that came since then. But when I first saw the American Bully, I saw Gotti, I saw Cairo, I saw, Knuckles, Razor's Edge Paddington looked flawless to me. It was still very close to the Amstaff. It was just a touch bigger. There was obviously some type of Mastiff thrown in there. But I think it should have stopped there. I think they should have stopped it there and then refined it from there and just kept that. And the head didn't need to be bigger. You needed a head bigger than Juan Gotti. You needed a head bigger than Remy. You needed a bigger head than that. Like, why? You needed it lower to the ground for what? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think you really when you really start to see the change was as a whole within the breed was when Dax was not brought in, but Dax really reminded me of a lot of old school Michaelin dogs, and you really started seeing that kind of go from quote unquote what you're talking about, which is pretty much me. You and I have the same viewpoint. Maybe me a little bit more bullier in some attributes, but still, we're still kind of seeing eye to eye on that.
Right.
But and then Dax was that thing where you saw that change hit, where they stopped kind of looking like that and kind of start going towards, the thicker, shorter look.
I've heard. I forgot who said it. Somebody called them street pit bulls. It was like they weren't pit bull, they weren't bully, they're just something in between. And it just takes me back to my neighborhood, when you wanted a dog that was capable to protect and, watch your house and things like that. It wasn't necessarily a game dog, but It was definitely more of an Amstaff, but you know that right when the blue coat color started becoming extremely popular. It was right around then because the dogs were still big. They were still big dogs, and like you said earlier, calling it a companion breed, that's not where this came from. These original dogs would bite the hell out of you.
Yeah. But I definitely like the function of the XLs, and I can respect every class, but as far as functionality, I really like the XLs and the classics. You know?
Yeah. Outside of your program, who are you digging right now?
Who do I like? Tony Gold at Weight and Gold Kennels in PA has always and consistently produced some amazing stuff. Garrett Henshaw in Georgia, been in it a long time, produces some real nice stuff. Who else? I really, as far as on AKC level, Edelhouse Kennels has been producing amazing Amstaffs for 30 plus years. And then let me think. There's some local people around where I am. We actually have some phenomenal breeders around here. There's a guy, a Bully Affliction Kennels, Richard Boatwright. He's been doing it for a long time, and all these guys have very functional, correct dogs, and that's just something I'm a big fan of. You know, NVK New Vision Kennels in Greenwood, South Carolina. Justin, he and I have probably done the most collabs. You know, his dog Takal and my dog Memphis. That's been our peanut butter and jelly for the past 17 years. You know what I mean? And he's actually, you know, probably the biggest contributing factor. You know, he used my dog and I used his dog multiple times, and so definitely, you know, him. And but that's been my, you know, who I like and who I get a dog from them. You know, as far as blood, I mean, I've always liked gray line dogs. You know, Doc Moore.
Yeah.
You know, he's real knowledgeable. He's a real helpful guy. He's always had. I've always liked that style of dog. I mean, like you said, Juan Gotti, Monster to me was an amazing dog. Juan Gotti, amazing dog. And, you know, a few generations after that, it kind of changed. But I really love, you know, I would probably say Monster Hohola or Jojola, whatever.
Yeah.
Probably my favorite. I mean, if we're going to talk like quote unquote bully style dogs, probably my favorite dog.
That was a great looking dog.
Out of all of them, you know what I mean? And
they still had that attitude. Like he had that attitude as well. Like he would bite you.
Yeah. He was a nice looking boy, and you know, I've always liked his program. And I know, I mean, there's other people I can't think of right now, but you know, just anybody who has a functional, you know, well balanced dog and has a good program, you know, it just seems like the lower and lower you go, the more and more it's unappealing to me. As far as you know, like I said, I want them to resemble more of an Amstaff than go the other way.
For sure.
So
how do your how well do your dogs do in the heat? Are they pretty heat tolerant?
They are, you know, but I'll tell you, with my Kennels in the summer, I take no chances. I go to Tractor Supply and I'll get big old little metal tubs. You know, I don't even know how big they are. It's bigger than 30 gallons. So it's heavy enough where they can't turn it over, and it's big enough where they can get in it. I also put fans out, you know, just in case. Right. You know, I like to put a fan out by Kennels and do that. And I have pretty good. If there's one that's less heat tolerant, one that I feel is a little bit more prone than the other. Like, I'll make sure that I have them strategic in the right place. You know what I'm saying? Because I've got some that are real resilient with the heat, but the ones that are less, I'll place them strategically. And even I have a shed in the back that I have set up as a whelping room. I mean, if it gets real hot, I'll put them in there in kennels in the summer and turn on the air conditioning. You know what I mean? But that's a rarity,
Right. Basically, if it's too hot for you, then you'll move them into the AC.
Yeah, and plus, I mean, coming here in the next month, and I'll have fans by the kennels. You know what I mean? And the other good thing about fans that people don't think of, and I didn't think about this till someone told me, it's hard for flies to land on dogs when there's a damn wind gusting.
Right. So you're talking one of those giant fans.
Yeah, I'm talking Tractor Supply 3-foot blade fan. That's $200-$300.
Yeah.
It works out quite well.
That's actually clever.
Yeah. Yeah, it works out quite well. And like I said, it's hard for flies. And, just some of the maintenance I keep, I keep that Bronco spray. Dogs with cropped ears around here, flies, you don't keep Bronco spray on or some type of ointment, they will light them up and eat, just nibble and nibble and nibble on those ears. So I spray my dogs down as a whole once a week.
So when you have a litter of pups, how do you know which ones you want to keep?
When I have a litter of puppies, I'll tell you, people have all these methods. I've used a couple of different ones. I've known when they were, pretty. I've known which one I was going to keep when it was born, and people are going to say, that's the wrong thing to do. Yeah, it is the wrong thing to do, but I got lucky. You know what I mean? Like, I had my eye on that one, and it developed into what I was hoping it would develop. I'm not going to say what I was thinking or knowing, because it developed into what I was hoping. And what I have done from there is I don't care about the color. I really don't like to keep dilutes if I don't have to. I don't want to keep, I know it sounds funny, but I'm talking about superficial level right now. I'm not trying to keep blues. I'm not trying to keep blue fawns. I'm not trying to keep blue brindles unless they are the absolute best. You see what I'm saying? So, like these last two litters, I really just watched them till about 6 weeks old, and it was kind of a toss-up. You know what I mean? Because the litter, I was talking about I line breed off of Memphis into cow. Well, this one litter I have is 5 times that. It's 5 times Memphis, 5 times to cow. It's garnered in a pretty consistent look. There is some differences, but I had a toss up between about 2 or 3 dogs, and I really didn't pick till 6-7 weeks old. And I really think that that's the best way to do it. Is keep your eye on them, but keep an open mind, because anything can change from day to day, from week to week. And I really want to see a dog get old enough where I can see the mechanics of the rear end. I can't implement how important that is to me, because form follows function, and I want a dog that moves like a prize stallion. You know what I mean? Right. Because that means that it's, you know what I mean? Like, it to me, form follows function, and if it moves well, chances are it's going to structurally be sound. Right. You know what I mean? And that's where I'm at on that. So I generally, I'll have my eye and I'll say, oh, this is how, this is the one that I'm looking at now. But this last litter, it probably changed twice, 2 or 3 times what I was going to keep out of 2 or 3 different males. And I mean, it was just pretty close. And but once again, I'm not trying to keep a particular color or a particular pattern. It's just I have my, like I said, so my favorite pattern, as funny as people are going to say, it's probably the hardest to sell, is black brindle, brown brindle. That is my favorite. I love that pattern.
Really?
But yeah, by far. And I love red nose, or chocolate red nose. Yeah, I generally wait till 6 or 7 weeks old to make an actual this is mine decision, because it changes so much, and I mean, with you dealing with bigger breeds, I mean, I'm sure that Mr. Robinson probably has, a better determination. I mean, you know what I mean, for you dealing with bigger breeds when it comes to your time.
Yeah,
probably has
pretty much every idea I have, I end up bouncing it off of him. I bother the crap out of that man.
Because he probably knows how to gauge bigger dogs better. My biggest dog out here is 65 pounds. You know what I mean? Right. So, but yeah, that's what I do. But if you start with good stuff, you have a whole lot higher chance of having good stuff if you keep it that way. You know what I mean? Like, right. It's like if you start with trash, you're just going to keep on having trash.
Yeah, you're not going to breed your way upward.
I mean, I can't tell you how many dogs in the beginning, and still, I mean, I'll get rid of, if they don't meet my expectations. And my wife, being new to this over the past 3 or 4 years, but now she's kind of gotten used to it, is even though I'm doing it on a small scale here, like I said, if it doesn't meet my expectations, I don't need it, and I'm not trying to sound like but if it has a flaw that I don't like, then why? I'm not going to keep it around. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to interject that into what I'm doing here.
Yeah. What do you feed your dogs?
I feed my dogs 4Health salmon from Tractor Supply. And it's supposed to be real good for their skin, for their fur. I think it's salmon and something. It's in a brown bag, or kind of a sand color bag with teal on the side. And I absolutely love it. Feed all my dogs, including my wife's, the rescue we keep in the house. He eats that as well, and we have real good luck with it. Nice stool. Coats are good, and like I said, fish and fish oil always help out dogs. Or I say always, it's supposed to help out dogs with if they have skin issues or susceptible to them. That fish oil is supposed to be real good for them. So kind of 2 birds with 1 stone.
For sure. Do you have children?
I have a little boy that turns a year on the 6th of May. So yeah, one little boy.
And what's your experience with having kids around your dogs? Are they pretty laid back?
What I do, yes, the male in the house is extremely good. I'm going to say this, and this might not be a popular thing. I'm not going to put my dogs in a situation to fail. None of my dogs have ever exhibited human aggression. And this is kind of where you and I, we have a little bit of a difference of opinion. I'm not trying to go that way with my dogs. I'm not trying to harness that. But I'm not going to put my dogs in a situation, or my baby in a situation where I feel it's just a bad situation to be in. Now, I take him out there with me, and I'll sit him down 1 puppy at a time and let them, because the puppies are still small enough, and he's 11 months old. They're 3 months old. I mean, they're still small enough, and they're not big enough, and he has a blast, and I'll let him pet the adults when I let them out, but 1 at a time in very controlled spaces. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
I mean, I've had great luck with them. And luckily my little boy, he seems to like them right now, because I joke around with my wife, so watch him be allergic to dogs or be a cat person, you know. So, but yeah, he really likes them, and they've done good with him, because, you know, I mean, you always hear stuff on TV and stuff, and you don't want to be put.
Yeah. I think that's 90%. I think that's 90% people's fault. Like,
yeah.
I'm not gonna load up a pistol and put it in my kid's hand. You know what I mean?
That's right. And I heard somebody say this the other day, and it could go for any breed. Dogs aren't people.
Mm.
And that was the end of the statement. And there was a picture of like 3 big dogs around a baby, and there was nobody around. And I'm just like, yeah, why would you put somebody in a situation like that?
Right.
Or,
they are, you know, animals.
Yeah, exactly right. And not only that, they descend from predatory animals. You know what I mean? Even though it's a long time ago, it's one of those deals like, don't set yourself up for potential failure, you know? And I mean, that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I'm very, very strict when it comes to children. There's a lot of children in the family, you know, little kids and stuff like that. And I'm very strict when it comes to them being near my dogs. Millie, she's different. You know, she can get along with no matter who you put in front of her. She's fine, unless she gets startled, and that's what I worry about. But my Rottweiler, I really don't have too many little people come around him. I just prefer they didn't.
Yeah.
Because he's a Rottweiler, and make no mistake, they can be dangerous animals.
Yeah.
And I've seen him spaz out before.
Yeah.
I mean, I should say it was definitely warranted. You know, every time he's actually spazzed out, I've given him a treat for it. Like, it was good timing. But let me ask you this. Last question. So what are your goals moving forward?
My goals moving forward, I feel like right now with the blood I have and the breedings I do, because I do have a good bit of stuff placed out and co-owned out. I'm kind of getting 2 different looks. Mm-hmm. I'm getting a look with more of a jowy look. You could say maybe I'm not going to say Connie Corso look, but more jowy that's not indigenous to Amstaff. Mm. And then I'm still getting Amstaff look, just a little bulkier, and those are the ones that end up being about 80 to 90 pounds. Mm-hmm. And I would like to become, and I enjoy both looks, but I'd like to become a little bit more consistent, because I can pretty much tell when they're born if they're going to have more of an Amstaff head or if they're going to have more of that boxy jowl head. Mm-hmm. And I would like to see some more people breed for to kind of have the same goals I do, so we could collab later on. Like I said, there's plenty of people with some nice dogs, but yeah, just really progression in general. Just becoming a tad bit more consistent with every breeding. And I really don't try to outcross every 3 or 4 generations, just to kind of bring something else in to kind of loosen it up, to tighten it up. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Planning for the future, because a lot of people think that it's a 100-yard dash when it's really a marathon kind of deal. Breeding for what you want and producing it consistently, you're not going to have that off of one breeding. You know what I mean? You got to, put in the work and put in the years and plans change and dogs get moved that you thought you were going to breed. And, it's just, it's always, you always get thrown a curveball, and you just have to adjust, in my opinion.